All right, guys, today I wanted to do a preview of the Houston Rockets, mostly just because of all the Houston Rockets fans that have watched this channel and been pretty awesome to this channel in a long time. So I just wanted to talk about the Houston Rockets today and what to expect from Houston in the bubble and in the playoffs as well. Now, there's a video I might want to do here in the future, and I think I'm going to call it one of the most teams that are most disrespected by national media. One of those teams on that list is going to be the Houston Rockets, because these guys are always treated like, oh, they got lucky to get to this point. Like, if they could have just, they couldn't beat the Golden State Warriors, even though they had the worst stretch of luck, even against Kevin Durant. They should have won that series if it weren't for an injury to CP3, and in a game where they missed like 17 threes in a fourth quarter. The Houston Rockets very well may have been NBA champions if they didn't just have a terrible stroke of luck against the Golden State Warriors. This is a team that has consistently been one of the best offensive teams in the league, and also, surprisingly, one of the best defensive teams in the league. When they are locked in on both ends, they are incredibly difficult to beat. So, we've all talked about it with the Houston Rockets. They make a big change last offseason to bring on Russell Westbrook, and it didn't start off very well. We talked on this channel about it before the season started. A lot of this was just going to see, like, what can Westbrook do in a different system that maybe adheres to his talents possibly more, gives him maybe more spacing like they give in Houston. Can Russell Westbrook play with James Harden? The cool thing that happened with the Rockets, and something you learned about James Harden, is that he was able to add Westbrook to the roster, and in terms of just like shots and playmaking opportunities, he gave a ton to Westbrook, to the point where I think he led the team in possessions in Westbrook because of James Harden. So that is a sign of James Harden's unselfishness. Probably shouldn't have been very surprised about that, in that we saw it work with Chris Paul, and obviously it didn't work out behind the scenes with Chris Paul and James Harden, but we should not take for granted the fact that James Harden can be a number one option on the best offense in the NBA. But we should also understand that he does share those possessions with players like Westbrook and Chris Paul, that you can do that with Harden. Really, it feels like we just have these assumptions about Harden that we shouldn't. Because he was a sixth man with Oklahoma City that shared the floor with Westbrook at that point and with Kevin Durant, and then he comes to Houston, and it's like a offense designed all about his strengths. What's the fuzz there? So all of his strengths were just enhanced by the roster, and then they bring on these stars like Chris Paul and Westbrook, and he's able to share those possessions. So kudos to James Harden for being able to share those possessions and not like live up to the tired storylines that the Nationals give to these teams. That's what drives me crazy sometimes with these national writers and talking heads and bloggers and all this, is they just kind of like look at a team once or twice a year, and then they use those same storylines over and over and over and over again. But anyways, back to the point. Westbrook starts with the team, gets all these possessions, but it was not going very well. I think he was having, statistically, to start the season, his worst season in the league since maybe he was a rookie, possibly even worse. It was just not looking very good. It did get better, though, as time went on, and it got especially interesting when the Rockets make the trade. They trade Capella, and they bring on Robert Covington, who I think is a tiny bit overrated, but he is a perfect fit for what Houston does. He plays really good defense, which is an underrated aspect of what the Rockets do. He is an efficient three-point shooter. He's not like this lights-out three-point shooter that I think a lot of people talk about him being, but he is a good three-point shooter, and that's all you need to be when you're on the floor with Westbrook and Harden, is get spot-up threes. If you knock those down, you are going to do well in the Rockets system. And that trade worked out great, because the other guy on this team that is just like to me, he's kind of one of the cornerstones of this team that's probably, in Rockets fandom, probably not, but outside of Rockets fandom, underappreciated, is PJ Tucker. That guy is the piece that makes this all work, because the Rockets are able to move him to the center position, And he's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year at that spot, but he is as strong as anyone in the league. He holds his own at that spot, and then he hits a corner three at just a ridiculous percentage. So he is a key piece and key role player for this team in that he's able to play the five, switch like 1 through 5. He is strong as could be, and he can hit corner threes at a high rate. And so if you can hit a corner three at the rate that PJ Tucker does, I mean, he breaks my heart all the time when I'm watching the Rockets and I'm rooting for my team. It's frustrating. And then his ability to actually stand his ground against some of the centers in the league. I don't know if he can against guys like Joel Embiid and some of the bigger guys, but for the most part, he can stand his ground and do good enough. And the Rockets defense with the switching, long, like Robert Covington, that's why he fits so well. He's a long, big, tall defender. He can like cover lanes, and they give a lot of offenses a lot of problems. And so this new style unlocked Westbrook. Westbrook went nuts, and he looked like the best Westbrook we've ever seen with this new style because it was an even more spread floor. You have PJ Tucker in the corner hitting threes at a ridiculous rate, and then you just had Westbrook just explode. He was hitting his mid-range too and hitting threes at a higher rate, but his just ability to get to the rim, and he goes to the rim with ferocity every single time. And in a Rockets system, that's just going to succeed. And that's what happened is Westbrook went nuts. And so you have Westbrook and Harden both playing at honestly MVP level play, and they went nuts, and they can beat anybody. The thing that I was worried about with the Rockets after that trade is, and I didn't know if it would work, and I'm still a little, is this going to, when you go into a 4 out of 7 game series, is it going to work? It may very well work because it causes a lot of problems. I think there's a difference between it working and it being a gimmick. And I think that it's somewhere in the middle. I think it actually works in a lot of ways and creates problems. Teams are going to struggle to figure some of these things out. But Westbrook went nuts. Harden is Harden. And it's really, really good. And the thing that I was worried about, back to what I was about to say, I'm going nuts, guys. I'm scared of this Rockets team. But the thing I was going to say is that I was a little worried that this team would wear down because someone like PJ Tucker is going to take a beating, and he's an important part of this, And if someone like PJ Tucker goes down, it really makes it hard to run this style because PJ Tucker hits that corner three and can play the center position for the Rockets. You lose PJ Tucker, and it's not quite as effective. You've got to bring in, I'm not even quite sure who they'd have in as backup centers. I guess Tyson Chandler. I don't know. I'm not even sure who the backup center is, guys. Rockets, let me know. I don't follow enough to know who the backup center is. I just know PJ Tucker gives me headaches. But the exciting thing for the Rockets and the reason that PJ Tucker might hold up, he's the guy I worry about because he's the one that keeps their defense at a high level and can hit those corner threes. If he stays healthy, and you have Eric Gordon, who's going to be healthy for them, and he did not look right this year as well, and they still won a lot of games. If you have Eric Gordon healthy, PJ Tucker is strong with his endless supply of sneakers. Maybe that's what keeps him healthy. And you have Westbrook and Harden, if they play at the same level they did before, this could be the team that goes all the way. Honestly, it's just so unique to what everyone else is doing. It can cause fits for teams like we just mentioned, the 76ers. Sure, Joel Embiid is going to be really strong inside, but if you've got Joel Embiid getting twos on the inside, and then on the other side you've got PJ Tucker hitting corner threes, it's threes and twos, and we know how that works out in the math, in the algorithms of basketball. You're going to win that game, So it's going to be interesting. I am terrified of the Rockets. If I'm anyone in the Western Conference, I would be terrified to play them because they are so unique. They're healthy and fresh, and they've got a system that is just different than everyone else with 2 MVP players on the floor. Two MVPs that are playing at MVP level. So they are going to be an absolute wrecking ball. I'm terrified of them. And they're going to be really good. And they very much can win this whole thing. If they can play their level of basketball and stay healthy and all these guys can be good, they can win. You really want to just hope that Westbrook with the COVID is just going to be completely healthy. I'm hoping, and I'm sure he will be. But you never know if that affects him. I know some of these guys who have had coronavirus, it's affected them longer than they'd like to say. Just it takes a while to get back into playing shape for some of them. But hopefully Westbrook's 100% because you don't want anyone coming into this not 100% playing their best basketball. So I'm excited and terrified to watch the Rockets at the same time. Guys, like and subscribe this channel. I will talk to you later.